Welcome back to another episode at Circle Podcast. My name is Lee Jackson, and we are so excited today. We have a guest by the name of Darin Dorsey. Hello, Darin. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Before we get started, of course, I got to do, housekeeping. Please make sure that you all follow us across our social media at Circle OGX, and check out our website at wearecircle.com. With that said, Darin, you are with AGEM, the executive director, and welcome to our podcast, by the way. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be here. Thanks, Lee.
Why don't you tell everyone, what AGEM is all about and what your role is there?
Okay. AGEM is the acronym for the Association of Gaming Equipment Manufacturers. For lack of a better term of terms, it's the trade association for global gaming suppliers, okay, meaning those that make the equipment, products, or gaming peripherals, associated equipment, whatever you would that generate gaming revenue in casinos or gaming operations around the world. That's those are your large member companies, and that includes companies large like the IGTs, the Aristocrats, Konami, Every, Light and Wonder, but then also companies that make table games or related products. The core group of AGEM is those that hold gaming equivalent manufacturer, vendor licenses across the world in regulated gaming jurisdictions. Okay. But along with that, because it's the trade association for that whole ecosystem on the supplier side, you have a lot of other companies that are customers or vendors to those suppliers. That means chair companies, marketing companies, banks, law firms. Those are all of the associate members. So we have about a little north of 150 total members. Okay. But it's all of those people associated with gaming suppliers and gaming equipment as it's produced in gaming establishments around the world. And now that it's gone digital, those are the same kind of companies that provide products, services, and technology to gaming in all the channels that are available today.
And how long has AGEM been around?
AGEM's been around since the early 2000s. Okay. But if you can think how the world has changed since then, it was probably a handful of manufacturers in a handful of jurisdictions around the country and maybe even the globe. But now that's just like as gaming has truly expanded in so many places, you've had all kinds of other companies that have come to the space. So instead of it being IGT and Bally and WMS and Shuffle, like a handful of companies back in its infancy, now you have a global gamut of publicly traded companies, new companies entering the space. So it's been around in about 20 years, but it's grown exponentially during those 20 years.
Okay. And you just became executive director this past year?
That's correct.
22 or 23?
22.
22.
So I am coming up on my 1-year anniversary as the executive director.
And is that a voted type of position or not?
Yes. And we have at AGEM, we have a board of directors, just like any corporation, even though it's a not-for-profit. It's a trade association, like a chamber of commerce for gaming equipment and gaming as a whole. So we have member companies who have representatives. Those are those large companies that have manufacturer licenses, and that's those brand names that I was just referring to. While at the same time, we have an established officer group that tend to be executives at those gaming companies. Okay. They kind of serve as that quasi in between, that run the day-to-day and oversight of the association, while at the same time, my predecessor, Marcus Prater, who was there for over a decade, who did a lot of great work for us, he was in the trade show, marketing, trade show, communications business in the slot sector prior to that. Yeah. He had been wanting to retire. Okay. And had, in the officers, at the time I was an officer, but I wasn't involved in any of the search. But they wanted to find out who's going to be the AGEM executive director for the next 5 to 10 years. So they did a search. Okay. And then people approached me to see if I was interested. That's kind of how we got to where we are today. But when you say elected position, it's kind of overseen by the board of directors and the officers of AGEM.
Okay. I like Marcus, actually. He's the one that actually introduced me to AGEM back when I was with another company.
Yeah, he's a good man, and he's still around, and I still keep in touch with Marcus, and I'll make sure and tell him hello. But he did a lot for our business and a lot for our sector and a lot for AGEM. So we've really been appreciative for all the work that he did in all those years, and we're just going to try to improve it. Yep, we're just trying to improve it and build upon it and make it even better.
So is he just hanging out on the beach somewhere? Is that what he's doing?
Probably so. Probably on a golf course if you know Marcus.
Okay.
But I do know Marcus he also has a background in marketing and communications, and I think that he's been doing some writing projects, is some things that are keeping him busy and engaged, and
Very nice.
he's kind of using that side of his brain, as he's wanted to maybe slow down a little bit, but still do some fun stuff while he's not playing golf.
All right. So let's talk about you then.
Okay.
So how about you share our journey? Like, I know you were with another company, Ainsworth.
Mm-hmm.
But before that, what did you do and how did you get to AGEM?
I'm a lawyer by trade.
You are.
So I'm a lawyer. So I went to law school and I was in private practice in large law firms. And how I got to the in-house world is I was at a large law firm, and William Hill U.S., when it's U.S. business, needed a general counsel. And that's kind of when I left private practice and became the general counsel at William Hill. And did that. And then Ainsworth Game Technology was actually a client of mine in private practice when I was at Snell and Wilmer.
Oh.
And they were looking for a general counsel for their Americas business, is trying to expand here. You see that big giant facility that's at Jones and the 215 in Las Vegas.
Beautiful.
That was getting built and put together. And then that's how I migrated over to Ainsworth. And I was there for, I keep track, it's probably about almost 7 years.
Okay. So from that to Ainsworth to AGEM.
And my background is I'm a lawyer, general counsel, but deal with the legal, regulatory, legislative, those types of issues. And I think when AGEM is trying to grow and trying to expand and trying to take on more of those, strategies, opportunities, issues in the years to come, because for so long, our industry and our sector really kind of fought for legitimacy. If you go back and think what people thought about the gaming industry as a whole, and then think about the equipment companies, you still had this almost negative connotation of poor influence. It's a sketchy business for lack of a better adjective.
Yeah.
But now we've seen how gaming is really a part of every public policy in so many, whether it's a state, whether it's a country around the world. It's part of the fabric of public policy, tax base, employer base. Now, it's a much more legitimate business. They're all publicly traded companies, very sophisticated. So now we're trying to think about the next 10 years, or what are policy issues that gaming and gaming suppliers and the related companies are dealing with. Because these are large technology companies now. They're large employers.
Yeah.
The issues that they're confronting today are maybe a little different than they were 20 years ago. And that's where I'm trying to work with whether the lawyers that we use, our members, lobbyists, or professionals, consultants, to try to figure out those issues and what's the best path to navigate to make it a more, business-friendly environment for all of our members in all of the jurisdictions in which they're located.
Are there other companies similar to yours right now?
Yes. If you would say, even in the gaming space, when you have talked about the American Gaming Association, the AGA, and Bill Miller and the folks in their DC office, that's a similar one when we talk about America. Right. But also they have large operators. So that's the casinos. Remember, AGEM member companies are the B2B, business-to-business supplier companies. We don't operate on a retail environment. We're not open 24 hours a day, or we're not operating casinos.
Right.
We're the ones that deliver products to those casinos or those gaming establishments. So equivalent, but we are very closely aligned with the AGA on a lot of issues, just as much here in Nevada, the Nevada Resort Association, because those are big casino and big large employers. We work very closely with the Nevada Resort Association. If you go globally, there are other similar organizations like that. There's the Gaming Technologies Association in Australia, equivalent things like that we all are trying to be trade associations. But I kind of make the analogy that we're the Chamber of Commerce for gaming suppliers. Yeah. That's the best common thing now, people, because everyone knows what the Chamber of Commerce is, and people that join those businesses because they care about the business environment in their whatever community, whether that's a city, state, or a national level. Yeah. That's what we really are. We're the Chamber of Commerce for gaming technology companies.
There's a lot of moving pieces to the gaming industry and the gaming manufacturers. So right now you're at over 100 plus membership, you said. Are you doing membership drives? Are you, there's a lot of people, exhibit companies, anyone that's in technology that supports the industry. How are you getting to those companies to grow the membership?
Well, there's a couple of ways. We are always looking for anyone who wants to take part or participate in those endeavors that AGEM does, and I am working currently with the officers to really start trying to put to a better business proposition to any of those partners or vendors or other suppliers to the suppliers, to whether that's social functions, whether that's thought leadership functions, or events a few times a year where companies that are interested in meeting or dealing with the executives or C-suite executives at the larger manufacturers or large gaming companies, putting together events like that. So that would be the value proposition, while at the same time, trade shows, and those still are an important part of our business about how everyone comes together. I was just over at ICE and in London, and I know that IGA is coming up at the end of this month, and G2E's in October.
So you go to all of those.
And go to those, and so those are the items. There were people, hey, what's AGEM do? That's sometimes where you kind of come across somebody that may be less familiar with the business,
right,
less familiar with our sector. And so we're always looking for companies. Another opportunity is in Europe, trying to grow more internationally with some larger sports betting, interactive, digital companies that are entering the regulated gaming space. Some of those are in Europe, and we've had some good approaches in trying to grow our membership and our reach there.
And that's a partnership with the Europe division, I guess you would say. But you guys work together alongside each other and growing it.
And you're talking about, we have a director of Europe that is based in London, and that's AGEM. She, Tracy Cohen, who's she's an executive with TCS John Huxley, one of our member companies. But since she's based in London, it's always good because she can be on the ground and we also are exploring and developing further partnerships with the European Casino Association, which are the large operators in Europe. And trying to expand our reach that way.
So with COVID, you came on board right after COVID. Are there any concerns, when you're talking to the gaming companies, any changes? Is it good? Is it bad? What are you hearing out there?
I think that everyone is probably, I would say, cautiously optimistic would be the term to think most, I guess that's most prevalent that pops around, because remember, it was difficult and it was so bad for any kind of business, for whether that was 12, 18, 24, maybe depending on where you were located. And the recovery has been solid, and the recovery has been maybe even better than expected at times. But at the same time, those people, very smart, sophisticated businesses, are operating thinking 12, 24, 36 months out. Some things where there will be some, whether you say the term pullback or slowdown or plateau or potential flattening out of opportunities and how to manage those issues. So I would say cautiously optimistic. But the one thing that has changed for everyone is I think everyone's figured out ways to maybe be more efficient with how they operate their particular businesses. And is that using technology? So maybe is that less physical office space, but yet to still fulfill the business needs that you have to do? Whatever that is, having people being on the road more or less, or maybe a little bit more using technology instead of flying all of your business leadership together all the time for in-person meetings. We do that less frequently in order to save travel and offset costs, while at the same time we can keep in contact and run a business however we need to.
Okay. So you were at ICE, and what are some of the things that you saw that were the biggest changes, and what can we expect at G2E?
I think the biggest change there, they didn't have it for a couple of years. If you go back in time, ICE in 2020 did take place, and then things changed in 3 years ago this month. But there was not a 2021 show, and then the 2022 show was very, very small, and it was no land-based really because it moved on the date. That's a long way to get to say, it was a very almost return to normal, where everyone was excited.
That too. So attendance and exhibitors were.
They said that it was record, not whether record or back to 2019 and above. And when you say 30, 40,000 people attending, while at the same time you had a lot of people excited to show in the digital online payments payment processing space. That's a new there's a lot of opportunity, or there's a lot of people that took an opportunity to show, to attend, to take part and make a big splash at that show, and that was I guess appealing. And there was the positive energy of all of that is a good energy around a trade show. So I would think that you're going to see probably more of that at G2E in Las Vegas in October, because there's an appetite for that and there's a demand for that, and you might see more of those types of, whether that's digital, iGaming, larger presence from those kinds of companies at G2E in Las Vegas, and maybe even some of the other shows coming up as well, whether that's IGA, OIGA. I mean, there's a lot of different trade shows through in the months to come.
We're hearing that, which is very, very positive news, right? ICE was amazing. G2E was amazing. I mean, we're almost back to normal at G2E as well. So very excited to see what's going to happen with IGA and beyond to G2E this year.
Agree. And like that was I would say that if you talk to people, that they would also echo the comments that people had about G2E last fall. Yeah. Wow, this was great. Everyone was this looks and feels like we would want it to look and feel. And you hate to turn the word back, because we're never really going back, because so much has changed, because the way you decide to operate, the way you decide to deploy your capital and think about things. But everyone being energized to be there, new products, new engagement, and people being all together at the same place at the same time is just an exciting opportunity for our industry.
I will reference another large technology event that was here, CES, right? I don't know if you walked that show, but I don't know, that might be a good show for you to have a booth at, right? Because there's a lot of technology.
Right.
It was 175,000 was before COVID, and this past last month, January, it's already March, so say 2 months ago, it was at 100,000. So it's very close to what it was right prior to COVID.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. And what was the energy? The same kind of energy on that as well, right? Is the same kind of thing?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Everybody's just excited to be back to normal. So it's great to see that. And I feel like the trade show industry, when the businesses are coming out, when the businesses are back, it makes you feel very positive about the economy, right? And it gets you excited, like, okay, we're good now. You know what I mean? Or almost good.
No, and I think that's spot on for if you talk to I did a poll across the membership, and the AGM companies, those are similar sentiments that are there, and we've just done an economic impact study that's being done and finalized for our industry, and that sentiment tends to be the majority of those, as people are excited, happy, feel like things are going to improve or stay where they are, rather than any kind of pullback or negative, and those are positive forces that help our overall business.
Right. So with the growth of Las Vegas, right, we all are seeing this. We're going to be a sports town, I think, right? So excited.
Not gonna
about
be.
that.
I think we are.
Yeah, I mean, once NBA gets here, then it's done.
Right.
You
Exactly.
can't say anything else. I mean, we already have football, soccer, baseball,
Hockey,
XFL, hockey, of course, that brought the whole city together. But soon NBA.
Right.
And that's it. So that has a huge effect, obviously, on the casinos and the business, and it trickles down to the manufacturers. What are you hearing about that, when it comes to the business side of it?
I think on the business side of it, if you talk about just Nevada or even Clark County, Las Vegas as a whole, when those occupancy levels are super high on up and down the Las Vegas Strip, or even in the just whole Las Vegas corridor, whether people are coming for a convention, a trade show, whether they're coming for fun because they can see Adele, or because we have world-class entertainment, or they want to go to 5 Michelin restaurants in the course of 4 days, or they're coming for a Raider game or a Knights game, or like next year the Super Bowl is going to be here. Whatever
won this year,
right?
Let's not forget that one. That's crazy.
And what's important, I think, in the overall is up and down, is that means people are there. They're continuing to fill those properties. So on our membership side of things, that requires, or that opens the opportunity for there to be what kind of new technological advancements, what kind of new products can you get to, what are new things, so that when people come last year, they'll maybe see some maybe different things next year when they get here.
Yeah.
So that's where that maybe opportunity is there when we talk about Southern Nevada as a whole for the gaming side, is when passenger counts at Harry Reid International Airport are up, occupancy levels are very, very high. That means those people are coming back and coming back. And so as gaming product producers, you're wanting to make sure, hey, let's make sure when that Pro Bowl gets here next, or not the Pro Bowl, when the Super Bowl gets here next year, let's make sure we've got a refresh. Let's go work with our casino partners to make sure, hey, you need to get some new products. Those are opportunities for our businesses to supply new products and new innovations so that people see something new every time they come back.
So with that, obviously, there's a lot of growth in AI, right? How do you see that affecting the industry?
On the gaming industry, the one unique part about gaming and gaming equipment is, since it's highly regulated in the privilege license industry, AI won't, disruption or those types of engagement won't happen as in depth or as quickly maybe than in other forms of technology. But at the same time, just like it's going to affect everyone else, I'm sure the research database, the data that companies use and think about in how they figure out how a consumer is going to use or view or feel a new product. Rather than having people do that, you can utilize AI type of products or strategies, put a game through a 24-hour cycle and have different, instead of having 4 different human beings with different player behavior go through that, you can train artificial intelligence in order to do that. So I think it's going to help the gaming or AGM side on that. For the casinos, for everyone else, I just think it's going to help a lot for whether that's compliance, whether that's analysis, credit analysis, what all kinds of functions that are there that require hours of human being time might be able to offload those and have AI affect those and help make some of those decisions.
So what do you see as the evolution or revolution in the gaming industry, like top 5 changes that you see? Maybe not 5.
Top 5. No, I do think that there is going to be a continued, I guess one thing is, whether people use the term omnichannel or they use, in the U.S., that's going to become more and more and more part of the gaming environment as we move forward. Whether that's everywhere in the United States, that remains to be seen, public policy, personnel. But the gaming companies are positioned to address that because they've already figured out how to migrate. If you've got a game, you've got a slot game, or you've got a table game, you've put together, because generally speaking, you can convert that game and make it play in a traditional land-based setting versus you can take that software and you can adapt it, modify it so that the same theme, the same game, the same player experience can be delivered to a customer that's in a land-based environment, to a customer in a digital online environment. Right. So I think you're going to see more and more of that. We're going to have to see another item in the long run is, you mentioned earlier about how cashless has become. There's going to be further advancements. How those end, where they go, I'm not smart enough to figure out. But as we migrate more and more towards digital payments, towards cashless, how that's going to fit into a regulated environment, because we've built this regulated environment on a physical currency type idea. It's going to be migrating. It's going to be further change. It's going to be made more efficient, but that is going to change the overall gaming experience. But I would think the another thing that is going to happen is what are products going to look like? Are the size and feel of products for the next? Are they going to stay the same? Or are they going to change because of consumer behavior, want something a little bit different? Because when the consumer, they're the ones that drive where those innovations occur. If there are customers that want more of certain experiences that aren't being delivered now, that is where the space, and that's where people will go to. And that means things look, feel. If you look at products now versus 10 years ago, curved screens, large, wide, almost immersive experiences for a traditional slot product.
Right.
Someone would have thought that, but yet people want to play. Well, people want those experiences. People look forward to those experiences. That's a significant change. While at the same time, what does that do for the overall casino floor, the gaming space floor, when you have, how does that mix going to work? But how those technological advances occur. And I would think another huge thing we talk about manufacturers is, being able to maintain, or one thing we learned in COVID, the pandemic, was when supply chain disruption occurred, because when you're making a product, you're making a computer now.
Right.
And everything was reliant on a worldview of certain things. Everything was interconnected. And we've learned that you can't always rely on that. So I would think more diversification of how supply chains are having alternate paths to make the same product. That's what all of these companies are trying to figure out, because we don't know 4 years from now, something might occur again. There might be some other disruption that I can't be reliant on one supplier for one particular component, because that puts me in a very difficult competitive disadvantage to the marketplace.
Right.
But I think people are going to get better. If that was, one answer about, I think people are going to get smarter and smarter and better at that.
Well, we're also in this Web3 world, right? And it would be interesting to see in the Metaverse world. We're obviously in that space as well. I mean, it's growing. It's a part of the Web3. It would be kind of cool to see a casino in the Metaverse, and you see people playing, poker or whatnot, and you're able to actually trade, coins or use coins that are cryptocurrencies, right? And then you actually, and I know there's a lot of regulations, and I've asked a couple of people, like, how do you put a casino in the Metaverse world and where they can make money, where it's, okay with the regulations as well? What do you think about that?
Well, I think that anything is possible. I think shutting that down shuts off certain paths, because I think as long as the people that in the regulated privileged license world, which I'm a creature of, which while sometimes we can say it's difficult, when you understand it, when you appreciate it, when you manage your way through it, it's important, and it maintains a whole lot of the viability and overall competitiveness of the space.
Yeah.
As long as the participants being involved in that are all agreeable to that form of regulation, and making sure that, hey, everyone knows that this is just simply going to be in a regulated environment, and that means in a regulated environment there are certain things that you don't get to, that have to remain private, or you don't the transparency issue is there. As long as the people and the participants are okay with that, there's a great opportunity for that. It's when someone wants to say, I want to have something, I want to get the benefit of that environment, but at the same time there's no financial controls, we're not going to disclose who is, those really come in conflict with how money and people move around in our environment. But if I don't think there's any necessarily bar to those using technology and those platforms when in another environment, but everyone that participates in it has to be okay with that being a regulated environment. And once that happens, we can figure out a way, most likely. We're smart enough to figure out a way to make that work.
It'd be cool to see. It'll open up, clients from all over the world, right? That can actually have that experience in the Metaverse world when they can't go to the casinos.
Maybe so.
Kind of cool.
Right? And like I just referenced earlier, it's consumers that drive so much of where gaming innovation goes to. And if there's that demand that's there, and everyone can agree that there's a regulated, I hate to use whatever kind of buzzword with that, but everyone sort of shakes hands and gets okay with that, it's a product that can be delivered. And how successful it is or not successful it is, the marketplace will decide that.
Right,
and that's a great opportunity, but everybody has to get to maybe that space for it to work.
Eventually.
But after Skynet, already, it's all right.
Whoever's going to make that one perfect, we'll see. So with AGEM, do you have interns? Are you hiring?
I don't currently, but that's also a consequence of, like we've referenced in this, the last couple of years. AGM in 2020? How do you operate a not-profit trade association when your members are trying to survive? We suspended dues for a year. There was no G2E in 2020. Go to a zero revenue environment. We're coming out of that now, which is good. We've made a lot of decisions, and I was one of the officers at the time, and those decisions bore fruit, and we're very happy with that. But in doing so, those are some possible opportunities of growing the AGM family, is to figure out whether that's the law school here for some internship or externship opportunities, for research, engagement, those type. We're looking at exploring and expanding the AGM family in the next year and the years to come for those type of opportunities.
Aren't you doing some programs with UNLV?
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
And I teach, I'm an adjunct professor in the law school as well.
Nice.
But we support a lot of the things, but not just with the law school, with the engineering school. We're heavily invested in building the new engineering building, because that's where so much of our workforce is going to come from, whether that's computer engineers, electrical engineers, whatever. We're very involved with UNLV in a variety of facets. And another thing that changed is in 2019, we went to the legislature with those partnership with those stakeholders previously, and we were able to get a change in the legislation that allowed gaming to work in certain gaming manufacturer, gaming related opportunities. It's 18, not 21, because that was a very huge difficult for us to give college internships, externships, and new opportunities.
Right.
Because people happen to be 21 years of age, because we all are non-restricted gaming licensees. So now, as people have recovered, everyone's back in their offices. I know that I'm talking with our officers and our board of directors and our member companies. Hey, think about these things. There's a great resource, whether that's UNLV, whether that's CSN, whether that's Nevada State. We sponsor scholarships, we sponsor programs, AGM does, but let's go find and expose college kids, law school, master's school, hospitality school, engineering students, whatever they are, because we believe that our supplier sector, when it comes to Nevada and elsewhere, this is an employer of choice. I mean, they're highly educated jobs. We're paying much higher than the average wage. They're more traditional jobs, meaning you're working in a technology company. That's 5-6 days a week. That's where you start your career. Yeah. So we're trying to find ways and inroads to make that, whether that's our member companies directly or through AGM or other opportunities.
And Blackfire Innovation is also a big part of that. Is that correct?
It is. We have an office now. And we have an office there for AGM for its first time in its life. Has an office. We have on the third floor of the Blackfire building. There's a it's essentially like a Regis concept where you say shared office space, but we have an office on that floor. And then obviously the fourth floor with the Gaming Innovation Hub, we host events there. We work closely with Bo and the team at UNLV. And it's a UNLV, product there that we always want to support in the Harry Reid Research Park. And I think there's more and more buildings coming along. But that's a long-winded answer to your question, which is, we've got an office and it's in Blackfire. And we think that's exactly a good place where AGM needs to be, because we're associated with the university. Yep. It's technology, and it's an innovation or creative environment. And so we've been very happy there, and they've done a great job with that whole entire product there. Yeah. And so we're going to be supporters of UNLV and that Blackfire product for as long as we can.
That's awesome. I love that space. I've taken a tour there, and I've been to a couple events there, a pitching event. Jay Vickers and Jamie Schwartz.
Yep.
Right, that's over that, and Jay actually has been on our podcast as well.
That's right. Exactly.
Make sure you catch that one.
He didn't wear his football uniform to it.
No, he didn't.
It's a great space. I mean, and that's a good thing about what we talk about, what UNLV does with the community. That's a public-private sort of partnership engagement, and that's where our future as Las Vegas is, and things like that. And AGM and our AGM member companies, that's the lane we want to be showing people. We want to be part of the future growth. Yeah. Our employees move here, live here, work here. Their kids go to school here. Their kids go to college. That's what we are excited to be part of, and it's we've got a real chance over the next 20 years to really grow as a community in Las Vegas.
That's great. That's really great to hear. That's good. I'm happy to hear that for you guys. Yeah. One last question. So is this what you've always wanted to do growing up?
No.
What did you want to be?
Oh, when I grew up, I would say that I always just wanted, if you would have asked me this when I was 10, 12 years old, I would probably say I'd be a government and history teacher at a high school.
Are you serious?
I played a sport
like kids,
like
so
Jay. I got to play a sport that got me to school.
Okay.
That got me. I played golf at UNLV,
Okay.
and so I came here in the '90s, and I was very fortunate enough to be on a very highly successful team that won a national championship, and all of my teammates were tour players. So I got to see people doing something at a high level, but I never wanted to be a professional golfer. I wanted to have a career, but sports got me that avenue to get me to school and expose me to opportunities. But once that happened, I would say once I got to college and I started in law school, I wanted to be a general counsel of a gaming company, and I got to do that.
That's awesome.
And so I get to do.
You get to do what you love.
I get to do, and I enjoy it.
Yeah.
But the great thing I would say is in this new role is I get to advocate, or I get to maybe speak for or take on issues for everybody as a whole, not one particular company versus another company. Sometimes when you can get in a competitive zero-sum environment, that's difficult. I enjoy this because if a gym does something and can affect change, everyone benefits for that.
Right.
And then the marketplace decides who does best with it or who doesn't do as well with it.
Yeah.
So when we go and try to make those approaches or strategies, that's what I really get engaged and I enjoy about this role is I get to benefit not just the company I work for, but it benefits everybody, and the marketplace will figure out the rest.
Right. Well, that's always the thing, right? That we want to be able to help other people too. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what I'm doing here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Helping you get the word out. So 3 takeaways, whether it's about AGM or about your personal journey that you'd like to share with the audience.
No, AGM, I'd say 3 takeaways is I think we're mentioning in whether I'm not with the Las Vegas Chamber of Commerce, but someone that came here in 1994 and started college, went to law school here, began a career here, grew up here, and if now I'm excited for Las Vegas's next 20 years because we really are on the precipice or on the cusp of really doing something truly transformative and great that so many other cities, it's a global destination. And when we do the next things, if we do them right, we're on the map.
Yeah.
Not just from an entertainment perspective, but just the place that does things really, really well. And being and living here and seeing that from its early 90s, and I know there's lots of people. My wife was born and raised here, so I can imagine that pride of, I'm just excited for where Las Vegas and Nevada get to go over the next 20 years as a global city that matters. And it has nothing, not nothing, but gaming is a small part of that. Now, gaming is an important building block and the foundation for a lot of those things that happen, but it's not just gaming that's getting us there. It's thought, it's technology, it's innovation, it's the environment. And so that's one takeaway that I have in the chair that I get to sit in and the role I get to do now.
Yeah.
The other thing that I would say directly in the AGM item is, what's gaming going to look like in 2030? Everyone can tell you they have an idea, but that's a takeaway that I get to see it firsthand. And is the gaming experience going to change? You referenced, we talked about a couple of hypotheticals that are there. Maybe, I don't know. But our industry has always found a way to evolve, to innovate, and deal with whatever market challenges, whatever consumer challenges are there. And so that's a takeaway that I have from AGM is we're excited to be there for that, to witness that, and be part of that.
Yeah.
But other than that, the third takeaway is I'm sitting in a room with a podcast, and like I said, this is my first full video podcast.
Wow,
so
okay. That's great. Well, you've done awesome. It's been great.
I didn't break anything, did I?
No, you didn't. And you answered. I love what you said, that Vegas does everything well. Casinos got us here, but now we do the sports. Look at our stadium, right? And now it's. I mean, look at our hotels and resorts. We do everything. We do the
airport well. I know people, and we all travel around, and we just think about how we're a metropolitan that has that many people flying in and out.
40+ million a year.
But it is such a great commuter for us. You have friends that live in Chicago or New York or LA, and like in the airport is denigrating any of those places, but we've got it really good, and we make that better. We improve that. We figure out transportation. We make transportation better.
Yeah.
It's going to, when we do stuff, we do it right, we do it well, and then we become a model for how other people want to do it. And that's because of the people that got us, the hospitality, those innovators, those people set the rules and set the groundwork for us. And it's our obligation to figure out how to take it and move it forward. And those people are all moving here, and it's exciting.
I was only supposed to be here 3 years, but here I am on our 8th year.
8th year.
So it's like, so proud of Vegas, so proud of what Vegas has become. You know, we're just not a casino place. We're a community. I mean, we're gonna blow it out of the water.
And I think about that. I'm going up to the legislature next week, and I know that's not just be Vegas, but even Reno. And when you look at what that corridor has established from a technology and everything that's going on, like we said, that's just Vegas on entertainment, but then Nevada's the center of stuff that matters on the globe, right? And what Tesla, what Google, what everybody's doing, that's all happening in Nevada, and we get to be part of that over the next few decades. And Nevada matters, and that's important, and that's a great thing, and we're proud to call it home. And I think maybe some people, when they first got here, didn't think that way, but I'm somebody that is, and I'm glad that there's millions of other people that are as well.
That's a slogan. Nevada matters. We should change that. Vegas matters. And we'll all owe it all to you.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so tell everyone how they can get a hold of you, your website, to learn more about AGEM.
Okay, the website is www.agem.org. But that's just maybe that's sort of an educational piece where you can kind of see the companies that we're referring to that are members of AGEM. But they're at trade shows. I'll be at IGA, I know, for a couple of days. G2E, we have a booth at G2E. We really are a big partner in how that show works, those types of things. And also at Blackfire, like you mentioned earlier at Blackfire. We have an office at Blackfire. We work closely with Bo and Jamie and Jay and any of those people. If you're ever around the Blackfire office and wanted to come down on the 3rd floor, let us know. We'd love to see you.
Okay. And you are on LinkedIn. They can connect with you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Darin Dorsey. Don't forget that.
If I'm bad at podcasts, I'm even worse at social media. So
I think I was talking to David Lopez, and he said that he checks his LinkedIn twice a year, maybe. So I was like, okay.
Only if he's wearing his Run DMC outfit, though. But,
yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, it was.
So thank you all for listening today, and don't forget to follow us on our social media at Circle OGX, and check us out at wearecircle.com, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and Spreaker at Circle Podcast. With that said, thank you, Darin. Enjoyed our conversation today, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks for having me.